Hi guys, Miss Akula here. So we're gonna look at the next lesson and we're gonna look at investigative questions. What that just means is when we want to create a scatter plot, we need to have data, right? And to get the data, we need to gather the data, we need to collect the information. But you remember that the information that goes on a scatter plot, it has to be very specific in that it has to have what we, the questions that we ask have to be um, so that, hold on, so that it has to be a bivariate. Okay, that's the R, bivariate. What that means is we need to be able to have two variables. Okay, the x-axis and then the y-axis, right? So we need to make sure the information they give us two pieces of information. Also, it has to be quantitative, okay? Quantitative. Uh, okay, yeah, one thing about me, I'm a horrible speller. Quantitative, okay? What that means is it has to be represented by a number, okay? By a number. So, for example, if I ask a question, how long did you sleep last night? You'll give me a number, right? 2 hours. Hope not 2 hours. 2 hours, 3 hours. I slept for 7 hours. That's nice. But it has to be a number. But but if the investigative question was something like, um, what did you eat for breakfast? I had oatmeal, or I had cereal, eggs, nothing, energy drink, you know, whatever. So those are not numbers, right? Those are just different items or different things. I cannot quantitate what you ate for breakfast. So anyway, those are the that's the main thing I want you to think about when you're asking investigative questions. So we're going to look at some examples and determine if they work for us so that we can make a scatter plot or not, and we'll see how it goes. So the first question we have here is, what is the average salary for lawyers? Um, well, when we look at salary, yes, those are numbers. It is quantitative, okay? But the problem is it's only one piece of data. It doesn't give us two information, it just gives me one thing. So this is a non-example. It is not a investigative question that we can try because it is not a bivariate. It only gives us one piece of information. Okay? All right, let's look at the second one. What type of relationship exists between salary and years of experience? So this does give us two things, right? It gives us the salary and it gives us the years of experience. And salary is numbers, years is numbers as well. So yes, that works. Is there a relationship between university attended and salary? So this one does have two pieces of information, but the problem is the university attended is not quantitative. It's just a name, right? So this is not, and the reason is because um, it is uh, you only have one quantitative. They both have to be quantitative. So we can say that only one variable, okay? This variable, the salary, is quantitative. But for our situation that we're looking for, they both have to be quantitative, okay? It's a fun word, quantitative. All right, and then the last one here is there a relationship between number of clients, that's quantitative, and salary of lawyers? That's also quantitative. So this is a good example. So just want you to think about that. Just make sure that the questions that you ask give you two pieces of information, and both of those informations have to be numbers or quantitative. Okay. So here it says, is there a relationship between a person's height, that's quantitative, and their hand size. So basically, what you're looking for next is, we have to see if one thing depends on another. So we have to think about um, the independent variable. So usually it's like the first question that we ask. Usually, the relationship between a person's height. So the height of a person. So we'll call that the independent variable. Does it affect how big your hands are? So your hand size. That is your dependent variable. Okay. And then here's another investigative question. Does the number of left turns that I make, the number of turns, that's quantitative, um, while driving affect how many gallons of gas that I use? It doesn't necessarily have to affect it. That's the whole point of these investigative questions, is to see if it affects it, and then we do the investigation. But for our purpose, we're going to say that the independent variable is the number of turns that and more specifically, number of left turns that you make. Okay. Does it affect how many gallons of gas? So does it affect the gallons of gas? Okay. All right. Let's go to the next page. Um, So when you are making your investigative questions, you want to make sure to label your independent variable. I'll just call that IV, that your independent variable, which is usually on the x-axis, right? And then your what do you call it? The dependent variable. I'll just call it DV. That is your on the y-axis. To ensure that the data is bivariate, meaning you have two things that you're getting out of them, two pieces of information, and also that is quantitative. I don't know why I keep writing G. Quantitative. Okay. We want to make sure we want to avoid words that are like cause, always, because sometimes it's not always, and also definitely. Okay. And we want to focus on more things like relationships. Okay. Meaning that um, is a relationship between the two things that you're looking at. Um, Typically is a good word because, again, this is typically means usually it does happen this way, but not always. And then it's likely is another word. And then the last word is the fun word. It's a very mathy word. It's called correlation. And we'll talk about more about correlation as we continue in this unit. So here's some examples we're going to look at. You want to explore the relationship between number of pets and the self-reported happiness level on a scale of 1 to 10. So when you use a scale that is quantitative, it's a good way to take something like that is not quantitative, and then if you put a scale to it, you can make it quantitative. Okay, and the scale of 1 to 10, so that's a number they'll give you. What is the best investigative question? So this is the actual question you're asking the people when you're surveying them. If I adopt a dog, how happy will I be? That doesn't tell you how many pets it has, right? If the number of pet owned increases, does that person's happiness typically increase? This looks good to me, so I'll go ahead and mark that. But I'll go ahead and check the rest of them too, because it could be something else. How many pets does anybody own? That doesn't work because it's only one thing that you're asking them. Does the number of pets owned cause people to be more happy? It's like, yeah, yes or no. This is a yes or no question. It doesn't give you um that scale. All right. You are studying the effects of rainfall amount on umbrella sales. So these are the two things. It's kind of hard to see when you look at this type of question, but Does the rainfall amount, so how much it rains, like 2 inches, 3 inches? I don't know if they use, I think they use inches for rain. Yeah. And then number of sales. So like how many umbrellas did you sell? What is the best investigative question to explore? Does an increase in rain always, so, oh, we don't like the word always, so we're not going to use that. How much money can I make selling umbrellas if there is rain today? Uh, mm, it's like that's also doesn't work. Does selling umbrellas typically, we like the word typically, affect the amount of rainfall? So it's kind of backwards, right? It's not because people are buying umbrellas that it's going to rain outside. It's because if it rains a lot, then amount of rain, our umbrella sales more likely, we like that word likely, to increase or decrease. Okay. All right. And then the last thing we'll look at is some scatter plots. Um, so what questions can we answer using the following scatter plot? So it looks like as you, your age, how old you are, does it affect the number of toppings that you get? I think it does. The older you get, the less toppings you get. You should see when I take my daughter to what's that called? Sweet frog. She puts everything on it. Anyway, that's neither here or there. If your age increases, will you definitely? We don't like that word definitely, so I'm not gonna use that one. If you're, because some people, older people, maybe they like to put a lot of toppings. Maybe my daughter gets it from me. I like a lot of toppings. Um, if a person gets older, are they more likely to eat ice cream? That doesn't really tell me anything about the toppings, right? So, is there a relationship between age and number of ice cream topping? That's a good question. All right, doesn't so it looks like here, so this is the number of sunlight. Does it affect the plant growth? How tall the plant gets? Does an increase in the sunlight correlate, we like that word, correlate to an increase in the plant growth? I think that's a good question. Does a plant that grows, so never do we like to ask the independent variable question first. As a plant grows taller, does it affect the sunlight? That doesn't. No, that's not a good question. If I leave a plant in the sun for a long time, is it more likely to grow? That's a good question. All right, guys. Thanks for watching.